America's always been a home of people complaining about, the ship's going the wrong way. Like a lot of Asians in the West, we're such in survival mode.
Do you feel like you're much calmer here?
Yeah, I do.
What's going on, guys? So in this video, I'll be sitting down with David Fung, one of their first Asian American influencers and content creators. I've been following him since 2013. Both him and his brother Andrew have built up their channel FungBros, touting more than 2 million subscribers. And they have sit down and interviewed many celebrities such as Aquafina, Jeremy Lin, former presidential candidate Andrew Yang, and has definitely built up the whole Asian American culture to what it is today. But I noticed that David has relocated to Bangkok, Thailand. And in this video, we're gonna sit down, go through his thought process of why he decided to uproot from America and settle here in Thailand. Will this be a permanent relocation, or is this something temporary? We'll find out. Many years ago in 2011, when I was stuck in my army barracks during my first year and a half in the army, I was consuming a ton of Asian American content creators in like the early stages of YouTube. I was watching Kong from Simple Pickup, if you guys know about the whole pickup scene. I was watching a ton of Wong Fu Productions. I was watching a ton of Just Kidding Films and their crew, and then you and Andrew's channel, the Fung Brothers.
I would imagine, like, of the people in your barracks, you probably were the only person tapped into that yes. vein, because it was such like a niche time where it was like we hadn't seen representation. So now all of a sudden there's this huge boon in Southern California, based out of LA, and that's why we were there in LA making content like everybody else.
Exactly. I mean, even before then, all you really had was Michael Chang, which was a tennis player, Christy Yamaguchi, like in the early '90s, like around that time. So it's like, Bruce Lee. Who do we have really to look up to?
Michelle Kwan. If you were like Mulan, obviously it's a cartoon. Yeah, like and some people find it difficult to look up to like Jackie Chan and Jet Li, because Jackie, his American stuff was so silly and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was more like fun, like rush hour stuff.
Cartoonish.
In this video, I wanted to talk to David about his experiences of, just, we grew up similar in the 90s. We're in the similar age in California. I was in Northern California, you were in Southern California. And then you and Andrew starting FungBros, and then eventually, you've done a ton of stuff. You built up your channel to more than 2 million subscribers, splitting your time between California and New York, doing tours, making content all over the world with both you and your brother. And then eventually, what gets everyone is this massive trend of people moving from Western countries in the States over to Bangkok, Thailand. And, one thing I've noticed is what Thailand was historically known for was just old, retiring Western men leaving America or Europe, moving here.
Right, with very dubious motives.
Some dubious, maybe they just came from a divorce.
I'm not saying that there was none that were not dubious, but just the ones that we thought of in the West.
Exactly. But me and my girlfriend, who's behind the camera right now, we noticed that there's a trend of younger Gen Z and millennials that are coming over here. And
even younger, like people in their 20s.
Yeah, people in their 20s. So the culture and the shift is changing of this demographic coming over here to Thailand. Do you mind giving us just a quick rundown of your background for people that aren't as YouTube nerdy as I am?
Right. I mean, long story short, me and my brother, we actually grew up in Seattle, but we spent a lot of time in LA in the summers with my cousins. And then we basically moved to LA, maybe I want to say like 12, 13 years ago. Made a bunch of content, had a lot to say. We still have a lot to say, but essentially I would like to think of ourselves as some of the most most forward or just outspoken people that are speaking on the Asian American experience, or Asians growing up in any Western country or like Anglo country, like Australia, Canada, UK. So basically like sort of speaking out on behalf of, like, in a very Pan-Asian sense, but obviously the side of it that I know the most is probably more on either Chinese or Chinese diasporic side, in terms of like what I could be like a 10 out of 10 expert on.
Yeah.
Right. But I speak about everything and just try to make it comedic. It's almost like a very unofficial, un-PC Asian American studies professor.
Yes.
Right.
Well, like some social, some anthropologic, like social matters of, whether it's dating, politics, our current social climate.
Right. But yeah, I will even go into the history and stuff like that. But just like trying to, I guess, add to the knowledge of self, because I think a lot of Asians in the West, we're such in survival mode. Anything that's not career, money, and like managing, which is not, I'm not blaming anybody, but managing these really small circles that we're born into, that can sometimes become even very clannish. Almost we have the blinders on to anything outside of that. So like, I'm kind of there to illuminate not everything that's outside of that purview, but just like the useful stuff.
Yeah, all the videos that you and Andrew, your brother Andrew, have made together highlighting these specific topics. What do you think your impact on the Asian American culture is as the years progress?
Man, you know what I realize is like I can't really change. It's just a drop in the bucket. But when I meet individuals, people come up to me and tell me that I changed their life or I changed their dad's life. Like, I guess the most tangible thing is a lot of people told me that their dads were not open to like even other types of Asian food other than the one they were born into. And ever since watching our food exploration videos, they started trying like all these different subgenres of cuisines or Asian cuisines from other countries.
That's awesome.
So that's changed their life, because as a family unit, they're gonna stay together and go to eat different food for the rest of their life. So that's something that's like hyper tangible. On a other level, sometimes people say, oh, I started talking about it in my art a lot more, or I became the leader of the Asian American Employees Union, you know what I mean, at my job or something like that. So those are the things that people come up to me and say are like, you know what I mean, like tangibly different, or like creators that are like, oh, I chose to speak up about my identity a lot more because I liked how you guys were so bold about it. So whatever that person becomes, like if they become a financial influencer or like a watch influencer or a cigar guy, you know, Porsche guy, whatever world they become like high profile in, they'll always feel more comfortable talking about their Asian side.
Like just being able to push them to step out of the norms.
Yeah, because you know how for a long time Asians, even if we did rarely get high profile at becoming like an influencer in another unrelated sector, we'd always be like, no, I don't want to talk about race. I don't want to talk about race. Whereas like just making people feel more comfortable, just being like, oh yeah, I'm Asian, by the way, I'm proud of it. Like, it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff.
Yeah, so I think that those are the most like tangible benefits, you know what I mean? But like I used to think about it when I was younger in terms of like how I want to change society. But I realize, you know, it's not like society kind of has its own movement. But individuals, you can really have a big impact.
I think what you and your brother are doing is that you guys are definitely planting the seed and bringing more awareness, and then it just makes people much more comfortable. Like, hey, I have FungBros to look up to, David and Andrew to look up to. I can, you know, bring up my own lived experience and, you know, in whatever sector that they're.
Yeah, and they a lot of guys, especially maybe like, oh, David and Andrew are into other stuff too, because they make videos about other topics that are really good, but they also talk about being Asian at a 10 out of 10 level. Whereas typically in the past, to the point earlier about like Asian American studies professors, they may be 10 out of 10 in Asian American knowledge, but then people are like, dude, but they don't know anything else that makes them relatable to like American culture.
I mean, you guys do everything. You guys cover social issues. You guys cover food. You guys have done interviews with Andrew Yang, who was a 2020 presidential candidate. You've done videos with Aquafina, right?
Right. Sports athletes too. So we just kind of cover it's like a Stephen A. Smith.
Have you guys interviewed Jeremy Lin as well?
Yeah.
Jeremy Lin as well. So Simu. Okay.
Yeah. So
and then you know, building up your guys' brand all the way to being well established in the community and in the scene. What did you think was the turning point of, like, I know personally for you were kind of leaning towards, you know, what if I want to live outside for a little bit? We've talked about this a couple months ago when we first met, that you were kind of floating the idea of maybe living in Taiwan for a little bit, maybe living in Hong Kong, maybe living in Thailand. What was the main seed that just got the wheel turning?
I think a lot of people have been mentioning about having one of us or both of us move to Asia for a really long time now. I want to say like 6-7 years already. But I guess I was waiting for some additional stimulus or motivation, and I have to, like I always tell people, I'm like, I don't know if I'm like ashamed of this or not, but maybe I should have come out earlier, but you know, things just happen when they happen. But it's more like, I guess everybody being so unhappy in the West.
What do you think some of the main factors of that are people are
I think
unhappy about?
Maybe people have given up hope that the ship is going to right itself. I think that's the biggest difference. You know, like America's always been a home of people complaining about you know, the ship's going the wrong way. Like, I think that's probably one of the main features of being American. It's like, even when the economy's like 10 out of 10 versus other countries, everybody's still complaining about something, right?
Well, I mean, is it probably attributing factors of like inflation and maybe a higher cost of living and all these other things that are happening?
Yeah, I would say it's like maybe people feeling like no matter what captain you put on the, you know what I mean, the ship wheel, like it's not being fixed. Like this is like, to use a, you know, army term, I don't know if I, you know, I use it to an army guy, but like FUBAR.
Yeah.
Like that's what I feel like a lot of people feel like it's finally tipped to that point. But different people have different thresholds. Like for myself, if I actually feel that, that's like a signal for me to be like, all right, I gotta start looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas everybody has different like thresholds, whether it's like disbelief or a lack of belief in their home country system, or is it a belief in Thailand's system, or at least the life that they can achieve here, right? Everybody has like these different balancing metrics, and once there's some equation that like tips, it's like this is the right point.
Yeah, no matter who's steering the ship, it's this term where you're not going to vote your way out of this one.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I never even heard that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that for me, like once I felt like it, for like maybe Thailand was looking like it was getting really good, like from what I could see in the videos and from what everybody was telling me. Yeah. There was a ton of Thai people in New York that were going back and forth opening restaurants. I was like, oh, Thai people got it popping right now, you know what I mean? And at least a certain class of Thai person. And then you know, like your lack of belief in your own system, and then finally it just hits this point and you're like, okay, I gotta make a move.
All right, so just to give a little bit of context, we met around November or December.
Right.
And then when we first met, we were like, all right, you know, I'm gonna go back to the States before the end of the year. And then right now is mid-March.
Yeah.
David still hasn't left yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've been traveling around though.
You have.
Yeah, I've been to Cambodia, I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Hong Kong, I went to Indonesia.
Yes, you haven't been just staying here, and then obviously, you know, you've made visa plans, and you're here more permanently now due to the advent of the new digital nomad visa, which I think is a fantastic option. If now, with all the things that are happening back home, and you know, it seems like the ship is constantly sinking and sinking. You finally made the move to, you know what? Let me do a scouting trip here in Thailand. What has your, I know this is an open, broad question, but what has been your experiences so far coming over here? I know everybody goes through the honeymoon stage.
Right. I don't think that my initial thesis has changed, that like Bangkok is in a golden era, and it'll probably be in a golden era for 10 to 20 years, depending on how long you can hold on to this like moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would say that like, I don't think that thesis has changed, but just the details have fleshed out more to me. Like in terms of like what's gonna work, what's not gonna work. What are your like, if you wanna have a team of people, just the details have fleshed out. So I guess, are you wondering what some of those details are? Or?
Yeah, just some details. Like, do you feel like the people are much, like, it could be super broad, like, or do you feel like people are a little bit more genuine? There's more trustworthy people. They're more down to earth. Could be food costs, food variety.
Oh, all right, yeah. So
mental state.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of something cool to say that nobody else has said in the interview, because I was like, that's boring. Here's a boring thing that I think is really true, is like Thailand can be really expensive, specifically Bangkok.
Yes.
Because like depending especially on like, you know, I mean, if you're a guy and you like dating a certain type of girl that's used to a certain type of lifestyle, the bills on the restaurant could be just as much as the West. You're going to be getting more for your money, but you're going to be in like omakase and et cetera, and things of that nature, whether it's like Japanese food or not. They have the omakase version of every cuisine out here. So I would say that that's one thing. It can be pricey.
Yes.
Right? So but obviously it can be very cheap too.
Yeah.
So you have a wider spectrum of optionality in terms of like consumerism or like your spending ability. But then maybe I would say that connecting with different types of expats. There's a lot of different type of expats here. There's people who are, like you said, anything from like degen to like furus, which are like fake gurus. But then to be honest, there's real gurus as well.
Yes.
But it's kind of like a mixed bag. Whereas like we're saying, like in a different city, let's say for example, like with a higher barrier to entry, like let's just say Tokyo or Hong Kong or something like that. That's like, you know what I mean? Like you may have more
serious people.
You make more assumptions about the higher probability of serious people.
One thing I've noticed about, the 4 years that I've been living here is that you meet all kinds of characters. all kinds of characters, whether it's good or bad. You're always going to meet someone interesting, and whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, it's something that you'll get out of. Compared to, like, let's say if I were to live in my hometown, everybody's working a 9 to 5. Everybody is married. They have 2 kids, which is nothing.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, Silicon Valley, which is nothing wrong. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that.
Like, some people are like 10 out of 10 happy living.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I think for my sister, for example, like no diss on my sister. I mean, she's married, she's got 2 kids. She's comfortable and it works for her. But I mean, could I do the same thing in our hometown? Most likely not. I don't think so.
Like you said, like even within siblings, some people are more like almost like an old school archetype of a person. You know, like people have all thought we all have to fit into that box and like worry about our 401k and then our stock options and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas like some people are still adventurers. Some people are almost more like towards, you know what I mean? Like
a wanderlusting, very more broad, very more open.
Yeah. Like, not to compare us, like who was that one guy that Shogun is based off of? There was a real British guy that Shogun, the show was based off of real. I think
it was based off of actual British.
Yeah, a real British guy who went, but he didn't go through all those crazy stories. But William Gates or something like that, he didn't become a samurai or anything like that, I don't think. But like, he knew samurai. But anyway, so what I'm saying is like, that's a real thing inside of people, not just men. Like, you know what I mean? Like that adventure gene, you need to tap into that because that's who you are.
I think that's a true trait when it comes to like men, especially masculine men, is that especially when you're young, in your early 20s, you should always seek out adventure.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest core components. Whenever I talk to younger men, or one day when I have sons, I'll tell them like, experience, adventure, go, learn.
Yeah, and it's easier now to be adventurous with that. Like, let's say, for example, you have ClassPass in America. The second you just get to Thailand, ClassPass will just update you to all your classes, just be your Thai classes. It's like the same Apple Card that you've loaded in there or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's way easier. Like, I remember I used to live in China like 15 years ago. Like, your foreign cards don't work. Yeah. Like, everything is like completely, it's a whole different ecosystem. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a lot easier to travel now even when you're looking at financial services. Like, you can get credit cards that can accept it everywhere. And
they don't even
much more options with everything.
Yeah, they don't even mark as like automatic fraud anymore. It used to be the second you went abroad, it was like automatic fraud, and then you got to call.
And then you call based off time difference and all.
Now they're just like, people are traveling. I'm sure it's fine if it's small thing, whatever.
Yeah, thank God for global travel through YouTube.
Yeah. So to your point, it's like you don't even have to be that same type of like rugged, like rough it out adventurer anymore. It's almost like you can be an adventurer, but it's like smooth. I mean, all the airport lounges work everywhere, whatever. Yeah,
and I think it largely has attributed to like YouTube and like a lot of travel creators like going in and out like all over the world. So
I mean, like look at where we are right now. Are we on set somewhere and like are we on $1 trillion like LA backlot?
We're just at a coffee shop. That's it.
Yeah.
on a comfort level, do you feel like you fit in more here compared to, let's say, Seattle, New York?
California? I mean, I would say that it's a mix of, I think people here are very accepting, but obviously if of like Asian Americans, especially if you're like you show that you're a person that has value and has done some things in their life and like is a good person or whatever like that, or I do find that people are like very welcoming and open arms, even in a way that like when you're in China, it's different too. Like it's even that becomes, maybe it's not judged. Like, in America, sometimes you get judged on race. In China, everybody's Chinese, so then all of a sudden it becomes like, who's your dad? You know what I mean? Like how much like wealth do you have? But here, even though I'm sure there's some of those normal human ranking metrics like in the background, it's not to the surface.
It's not as like mainland Chinese, like who's your father, like, net worth and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's less imperial.
It's more about merit base, you would say here, or like it's not like you have to be a multimillionaire, but like, what do you do for work? What do you do for a living? How have you impacted society?
Yeah.
Is that
it's tough to say. I don't know if like merit-based is 100% of the word that I'm looking for, but it's just different. It's more relaxed on the surface level, at least. Like, you know what I mean? Like people are better to each other.
Yes.
And I do think it's Buddhism, and it's due to people are quite good to each other. Like I've been traveling around like Vietnam, Cambodia, you know, Indonesia. Each country is different, even though they're all like within hours of flight distance with each other. Yeah, you know, like, you know, I mean, like, it's just, it's fascinating that different cities have such different complexions.
Do you feel like you're much calmer here?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah? Like you don't have to, there's no like rat race, like do you feel like your soul and like your mental health is much more calmer,
Yeah.
even
more,
in a big city like in Bangkok?
Yeah, it feels more like a matcha. Like if you ever drank a lot of matcha,
I drank way too much matcha.
Yeah.
Drink a lot.
You get energy from matcha, but it's a different type of energy that you get from like slow release green tea caffeine versus
like black coffee that we're drinking.
like a Monster energy drink. Or like I always said, New York was always like a hardcore hip hop beat, like Swiss beats.
Yeah.
And then I always felt like Bangkok was like lo-fi. Like you know that girl with the cat that's like looking out her window.
Yeah, I have that on loop every day.
Yeah. That's like, so it just depends. Like some people they may need. There's such like different rhythms and tempos to every country and every city within each country. You got to find the one that matches up with you.
Yes. When you talk to people back home, what is their reaction of like, hey, I'm gonna be staying here for 4 months and going on? Like, do you get a mixed bag of people like telling you when are you gonna come back to the States, or I'm happy that you're over here and this is where you found home? Like,
Yeah.
What has been the reception, including from your brother Andrew?
I think that especially a lot of the reaction that I've gotten from a lot of people, not just guys, because you think, all right, single guys or like, to be honest, you know, your few like divorced friends or whatever are like, yo, bro, that looks awesome. Yeah, of course, that's a conventional, you know, like movie writer response. Yeah, that's there too. But even like I've seen, not necessarily people and their families, but like some people who have just looking for a switch up. Like a lot of people are, or people who are really tapped into the contentious political atmosphere of America right now that want out. So I've seen a lot of people just be like, oh, talk about whether it's like egg prices or something as like trivial as egg prices,
yeah,
all the way to like, dude, you just look like you're losing weight because you're just eating real food and like you're eating fresh cut fruit that's like $1 to $2, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's less preservatives, there's less chemicals. It's much healthier, like eating the food out here compared to all the crap that they put back home.
Right. And you know how like a fruit cup in New York, like Manhattan right now, is like $7, and you would get terrible, you know, soggy grapes for $7 versus you could get like some really delicious 10 out of 10 fruit here for like $2.
Yeah, oh my God, the fruit is amazing here in Bangkok.
Right.
So much happier.
So I think like you do receive a lot of like essentially positive feedback.
On pricing, on health.
Yeah, but to your point, I think it would have been different 4 years ago even, or like just to say post-COVID or pre-COVID, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you still see that, like the jokes a little bit, like the lady boy jokes and stuff like that. But like, but I'm saying I've noticed the tone shifting, even over like the last few months, the tone shifting, whether it's egg prices or incoming like political turmoil.
Do you think one of the biggest tone shifts is probably because that there's a much, instead of what Thailand has historically been known for, like, you know, old Western men on recently divorced or they want to come out here and party, towards like a younger generation of people living here in Bangkok, like Gen Z, millennials, perhaps even Gen Alpha, that are moving from Western countries over here to Bangkok. Because to give a little bit of context, like, you know, for the past like couple months, I've been seeing people all over here in the city center of younger people just walking through the streets.
Yeah, for sure.
There's less of an older crowd now, it seems like.
Yeah.
Do you think that might be
and maybe it changes when you go to Hua Hin or Pattaya or something like that, but Bangkok for sure is going to be, I noticed way more younger, TikTok generation, a lot of creators, a lot of people who came to be honest, at least influenced partially by the MJ industry or just the ability to smoke weed.
Yes.
Like that had an impact too, for sure. But yeah, like you said, like all the Western events, like what is it, like Tomorrowland, what's it called?
EDC.
Wonder Fruit, EDC, Rolling Loud. I think Japan and Bangkok are the only places that really have those. A lot. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, like selectively here and there, like I think Korea has EDC too, but like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like, Japan is going to be like the Western hub of having all that stuff there, but it's like quite limited and restricted. But that Bangkok will be the place where you could enjoy a Western festival in a Western manner.
Bangkok and Tokyo, I've seen the vibe is quite shifting quite a bit with a lot of more younger international people moving and just adapting more towards either Thai culture or Japanese culture.
Yeah. And then I think it's interesting because it's different. There's a lot of similarities between Tokyo and Bangkok.
Yeah.
But Tokyo has always been for Japanese for a really long time.
Yeah.
And they're because of the economics and the birth rate, they're having to like really be like they're basically coming to terms with the fact that tourism is going to be a larger and larger slice of their GDP in Japan.
Yes.
Whereas in Thailand, it's probably always been that way.
Yeah. What are your plans for long term? Do you want to make a base out of here? And then lastly, like, what do you kind of foresee the future moving forward here in Thailand specifically?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the future holds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To be honest, I can just focus on what I'm building and what I want to do. So I still have the mission to impact Asian America or Asians in the West. That's why I'm like launching this Asian male empowerment camp.
Nice.
In Bangkok. And, it's called TigerClub Elite. I don't know, I don't want to plug it right here.
Plug it.
TigerClubElite.com. Sign up for it. It's 3 days. There's a virtual call version if you can't make it out here, but I really would encourage people to do the 3-day camp. And that's going to be for whether people want to move to the East or split time or go back to the West. I just think it's like designed to fill in. Like what my material's been designed to do is just like open people's eyes and like help them try to live a better life.
Good.
You know what I mean? Because you know how it is, dude. Like, you can get like very universal male improvement camps, which is just like do a bunch of push-ups, eat clean, eat some eggs, eat some steak, eat some avocado. I'm not saying any of that is wrong. That's all right. But I think that there needs to be a more like catered deployment towards like Asian American males.
I think one thing I would say about Asian American males and like kind of how the people that I grew up with that kind of just settled is that, I mean, long story short, I think action breeds outcomes. And I would push more Asian American males to actually, like, if you're not unhappy where you're at, try different shit.
Yeah. That's like imagine being born a character into a video game where that particular character is like, this game is better for strikers or whatever, and then you got born like a magician, but then you're not shifting to magician land that caters to magicians.
Yes.
You're staying in striker, like battle axe land. And, listen, guys, clearly I'm not that big of a gamer in League of Legends. There's some mismatch of your attributes that are not bad attributes, but for some reason, whether it's the way the other characters in the game, multiplayer game are treating you, or the way your spells and attributes are playing with that game map, not shifting your game map.
Yeah.
That don't even make any sense.
Yes.
Like you said, you just try and put your head in the sand like an ostrich when you see something that's like a unideal situation.
Yeah, I think it's most important, amplify what you're good at.
Yeah.
And lastly, I do want to ask you, and typical broad concluding question, but like if you have any advice or people that have recently left whatever America or Europe and have domiciled over here in Thailand, what is your best advice of maximizing or optimizing their life here in Thailand? Given based off of your past 4 months.
I think it really depends on what is your mental state, because like when you come over here, a lot of people are going to be like the first 3 months is going to be way different than the next 3 months.
Yes.
And one thing that I did is like I didn't look up anything. I didn't go on Thailand TikTok. I didn't go on like Thailand Reddit or any of those things. I went on nothing, and I just went and explored and found out things on my own. That's just like the headspace I needed to be in. But now I'm more like looking stuff up. Like I didn't go on TripAdvisor. I didn't know what the best restaurants were or anything.
Oh yeah, I never do that. I mean, I think personal experience is always the best.
Yeah. But I'm saying that basically you got to find the style that works for you.
Yeah.
In the headspace that you're in. I guess that's the easiest way I can say it, because like it's like tough to. The best piece of advice I can give to anybody is maybe just Lazada, Grab, Agoda.
Yeah.
There's certain apps that like work in America with your American card, because like I don't know if you knew Shopee doesn't work with international cards.
Oh, I didn't know
that.
But
Lazada does, but Lazada's more expensive.
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah. So that's just a little thing, but yeah, like other than that, I would just say talk to people, but know that your experience is going to be your own, because nobody knows what your motivations are, and even your motivations can fit an archetype of person that's like coming over, but it's still going to be unique in its own way.
I appreciate taking the time out of your busy schedule to film this quick video. David, is there anything that you'd like to do to shout anything out? Any
TigerClub Elite Camp. TigerClub Elite Camp in Bangkok, guys. It's 3 days. We're going to be doing it at the end of April, and then probably another one in May. So TigerClubElite.com. That's the website. And then I would just say, yeah, maybe, I guess if it would be cool if they had better, you know, I guess, what do you think about like hiring the standards for like foreigners coming over? Or do you think that, you know, I hear a lot of debate about that amongst the Thai circles.
Listen, hiring standards amongst foreigners to get here, I think that's more of like a government/immigration. I don't know. I guess we can make videos about that, but I think at the very end of the day, I think immigration gets like final word, right?
Yeah. So for sure, I mean, it's tough because there's a lot of policy things that I've never been a person at this point in my life where I want to come into a place and be like, well, if I was the ruler of this place, this is what I would do.
Yeah, I know. Like, I understand immigration and people coming over here. They need business from foreigners to drive up the economy, drive up the local economy, and then I could see some crazy degenerate guys that can't cause trouble, but at the same time, it does give us something to talk about, and it does provide hilarity in our life.
That's true. You see all the viral videos driven from it. Oh yeah, try Southern Thai food.
Yeah.
That would be my other thing.
Perfect. Southern Thai, Phuket style Thai food.
Yeah, and then Isan food can have good macros if you just don't eat the rice.
Yes.
Yeah, and you get
low carb.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it, David. Check out FungBros, and yeah. Thank you for sitting down, taking the time with us. Check out FungBros, and yeah, that's gonna be it, folks.
Hey, thanks for having me. First 2 cam interview.
First 2, no, actually.
Oh, okay.
But maybe the next one will be 3 cams. I'll try it out next time.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and appreciate for you guys watching. Love you guys. Be kind to each other, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.